Thank you, Sarah. Welcome to everybody. Brilliant to see you all on, it's the end of March. How on earth is it the end of March? And not so sunny Wednesday to spend, I guess, a pre-lunch hour session looking at wellbeing in the workplace. We've, as a chamber, done so many sessions since we all went into lockdown over a year ago, and it's obvious that, you know, different people are kind of experiencing different things when it comes to your workplace and well-being and what that actually means. And I'm having so many conversations with people, some people who absolutely love being tucked away at home and are just loving the kind of the focus that they can get, and then others that are just absolutely desperate to kind of get back out and interact with people. And then there's probably most of the rest of the workforce are in the middle somewhere along that scale. But yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, and it's been fantastic during that last year to be able to draw on so many different members who've got so many different perspectives on this, whether it's, you know, getting out and accessing green spaces, or taking time away, or you know, not multitasking but single tasking, which most of you that have worked with me will know is definitely a significant challenge of mine. But I'm really looking forward to today. So thank you to those of you that are joining us. There is no need to kind of sit with your cameras on. As we've said, we are recording this, but please take the time to engage in the chat. And some of us are going to stay on camera to make sure that we're engaging with Alan and his jokes, because he's promised us jokes. So Alan Clark from the Wellbeing Venture is one of the members that we've been engaging with before lockdown, and we've talked about different things, about doing things as a team, and we helped Alan with some feedback on some of his programs. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Alan's been up to since the last time I caught up with him. And then we'll have a chance to hear from Yvette, and then also a bit of interaction and Q&A at the end. So Alan, over to you. When I can hear you, I will mute and get out of the way.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction, Alison. It's brilliant to be here. I'm just going to share a wee presentation with you, so hopefully you don't have to look at me for the next wee while. Handsome as I am, but yes, nice to be here. Fantastic to be able to talk to you this morning. As was mentioned, my name's Alan Clark. I'm the a principal consultant at the Wellbeing Venture. I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I originally was a PE teacher. That's all I ever wanted to be, was a PE teacher, right up until the point where I became a PE teacher and thought, this is not for me. So I have actually spent the last, I suppose, 25 years working in sport and physical activity and in wellbeing, and that's where I am now. And I absolutely love working in wellbeing. I love being able to make a difference. I love being able to have an impact in people's everyday lives, which is really why we set the business up. Now, one of the things that we live our lives by at the Wellbeing is our motto. I suppose this isn't going to do the move on thing, is it? There you go. When you get health and well-being right, everything else is easy. So when you're happy, when you're healthy, when you're comfortable, what you tend to find is the rest of your life just kind of falls into place. Well-being is really, really important, and there's a reason in schools that it's an underpinning part of the curriculum, and when we get into kind of adult life, it's an underpinning part of our whole lives. So when you get health and well-being right, everything else is easy. But over the past sort of 12 months, that's been quite challenging for a lot of us because of what's been going on in the way that we work and the various other challenges that have been going on with our lives. So it can be quite difficult over the last 12 months. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to explore some of the background behind health and well-being, some of the impacts that maybe you've felt over the last 12 months, and also just give you 2 or 3 little solutions that you can take forward for yourselves. Not massive stuff, but we're just going to have a look at some solutions that you could have a look at for yourself. But the first thing we're going to do is a wee task. Okay, so here it is. At the end, in half an hour after I've finished, somebody will be chosen to sing the national anthem of their choice. Okay, any national anthem is entirely up to you, of your choice. There we go. Of course, I'm just kidding. Of course, I'm not going to make you sing the national anthem of your choice, but it probably highlights something for a few of us. Now, some of you, and I'm guessing Alison is probably amongst those here, would just be thinking, I can do that, it's not a problem, I'll just sing the national anthem, it's not an issue. And quite a lot of us approached lockdown with that kind of attitude. Well, it's just something that's going to happen to us, we'll just cruise through it, and you have done. But for quite a lot of us, the idea that you sing a national anthem at the end of the session has possibly caused 3 responses. Okay, stress and anxiety responses. So the first response would have been, for some of you, anger, right? I am, what? You're making me, what? I came on here for an hour off work this morning to listen and kind of not really think too much, and you're going to make me sing, right? I'm furious. I'm getting off this call. Okay, so that might have been the first response. Second response you might have had was anxiety. What? I don't know the words to the national anthem. Wait a minute, is it Scottish national anthem or God Save the Queen? Or, oh, I don't know the words to the American national. What's the second line of God Save the Queen? So you've got that anxiety going on, which just causes question after question, and you never resolve it. Okay, so we've got that kind of first response might be anger, second response might be anxiety, the third response might just be a depression mood. Oh, something else, right? I was having a bad enough week, and now I've got to sing. Right, so that tends to be the 3 natural responses to a kind of stressful situation that we haven't found before. And over the course of the pandemic, we've found that those 3 responses has been an increase over the course, just through the kind of natural fact that it's a completely challenging, a completely changing environment over the last 12 months. So at some point you would have experienced either one or all of those responses, and generally there's a kind of bubbling under anxiety, stress, and a slight depression and mood over the last 12 months. And what we've probably found, I'm just going to flip a list up just now, but what we've probably found is you will have experienced some of these. Okay, so common pandemic stuff. Right, probably at some point more sedentary, poorer diet, bad sleep, headaches. You know, there's quite a lot of us, I think, have experienced headaches, irritability, loneliness, anxiety, and stress. And just as a result of what's happened to us over the last 12 months, these things have just been bubbling under. Now, some of us will have experienced none of these. Some of us will have experienced quite a lot of these. But I would imagine most of the people on the call can relate to something on that list. Okay, so that's what we're going to explore today. There's a little bit of the background behind them, and just some of the things that we can do to alleviate some of these things. Okay, I promise it'll get more positive as things go on. Right, so because what we're going to do, because we're on Zoom, we're going to do a quiz. Hey, so the imaginary prize for this quiz is a trip to Seoul in South Korea. Okay, so if anybody's ever wanted to listen to K-pop in person, then this is your opportunity with this imaginary prize that I'm going to give out at the end here. So, okay, so here is so you're just going to answer these. If you've got a pen or pencil, just write them down. If you haven't, then just keep them in your head. But there are 5 questions here. So mental and emotional health will be the world's leading cause of mortality and morbidity, so death and disease by 20 what, according to the World Health Organization? Regular physical activity reduces your likelihood of depression by what percentage? Happy employees are what percent more productive than unhappy employees? People struggling with mental health issues will reach out. And the average cost of a sickness absence day is what? Okay, so here we go. The answers to the questions. Mental and emotional health will be the world's leading cause of mortality and morbidity by 2030. So within the next 9 years. Now, interestingly, that was World Health Organization in 2012, and we've had a global pandemic since then. So you can imagine that probably that has come a bit closer. Okay, so the leading cause of death and disease will be mental and emotional health by 2030. Regular physical activity reduces your likelihood of depression by about a third. Okay, so if you're physically active, about a third less likely to develop depression. Happy employees are about a quarter more productive than unhappy employees. Okay, so what does that mean for your bottom line? It's very rare that somebody struggling with mental health issues will reach out. So what does that mean then? The question to ask then is, what does that mean in terms of your culture in your workplace and enabling people to have discussions? And what sorts of questions can you start asking in your workplace? And the average cost of a sickness absence day is £720. Which is a fairly large amount of money when you think about it. But that's lost work, that's lost revenue, that's lost work brought in, that's cost of covering the work with that person, etc. So £720. Okay, so hopefully somebody is sitting there with 5 out of 5 in a trip to imaginary South Korea right now. Okay, and we'll find out who that is at the end. But true or false here now. Okay, true or false? The average person needs 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Good posture when sitting is beneficial. Running in middle age is bad for your knees. Middle age, for those that are not aware, is 15 years older than you are. Okay. Cholesterol in food we eat is bad for us. Grazing is better than big meals. Human nature is to exercise for fitness. And the average device or phone use is 5 hours a day. Okay, so we'll go through these. So you should have true or false in each of these. The average person needs 8 to 10 hours sleep a night. False. The average person needs 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. It's a tight quiz. I keep things tight here. So 7 to 9 hours a night is what the average person needs. Good posture when sitting is beneficial. Well, it's kind of false. Posture was actually invented by German orthopedic surgeons back in the 1900s. It's not really a thing. And the evidence suggests that actually what you need to do is move. So the fact that we sit down for hours at a time is the bad thing. When you get up and move every now and again, you use the muscles that you're not using when you sit down. So it doesn't matter if your chair costs £2,000. If you're sitting in it and not using the muscles, it's not doing you any good. So kind of true, kind of false. Running in middle age is bad. Nonsense. Okay, unless you've got arthritis, not running in middle age is great for your knees. Cholesterol in food we eat is bad for us. We don't really take in any cholesterol from the food that we eat. Hardly any at all. Cholesterol is brilliant for you because it's like a sticking plaster in your arteries. It's your diet that ruins your arteries, which causes you to make cholesterol. And when you make too much cholesterol because you've got too many holes in your arteries, that's when they clog up. So cholesterol is actually a good thing. Grazing is better than big meals. No, grazing is made up by the diet industry to get you to buy their mid-meal snacks. Okay, there's no evidence to suggest that. Human nature is to exercise for fitness. No, human nature is to not exercise. Human nature is to hunt. That's where we came from. So if you exercise for fitness, your body's going, what are you doing this for? You're wasting energy. Right? That is why when you decide to go to the gym, everything in your mind is screaming, don't go. I don't want to go for a run. I don't want to go for the gym. All right. But the problem is we now don't hunt. So if you don't have to expend 2,000 calories to reach up into the upper cupboard and get a chocolate biscuit to hunt it down, then you need to go and do some exercise to change that deficit. An average phone device use is 5 hours a day. That is correct. So the average is 5 hours a day. However, if you're 80, it's 2 hours a day. And if you're 18 to 25, it's round about average of 12 to 18 hours a day. So if you work out where you are on that, then that'll give you an idea of what your device use is every day. So that there's some of the things that are kind of myths or true for ourselves in terms of health and well-being, and some of the things that we believe, and some of the things that we need to maybe dig a little bit deeper in. So yeah, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot to be kind of going on with just now, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 30-second pause. And all I want you to do in this 30 seconds is get up or move away from where you are right now and then come back. So I will see you in half a minute. Well, hello. That's very nice to see you back again. So here we are. Let's on with phase 2 of this morning's non-stop all action half hour. So this is some of the things that we've seen as a normal office. This is kind of before we went into this mad last year. Okay, so normally working in the office, or kind of any job, I suppose, you would have your morning commute. So however you do that commute, whether it's walking or cycling or getting on a train or getting the car or whatever. So you've got your commute to work. You arrive, make yourself a bit of a coffee, and maybe have a bit of a blether with somebody over making a coffee. You sit down, start the day, do a bit of work, mid-morning, a bit of a blether, a bit more work. Lunch, you might go out for lunch, you might meet a friend for lunch, etc. Back, work in the afternoon, mid-afternoon, blether with colleagues, moan about management, whatever that might be, as you do in the afternoon, then work. Then you have that ritual where you shut down your PC or your laptop, you close off your desk, you leave, you commute home, and then you do what you do at night. Okay, so that's a kind of general average day, whether that's on a site, whether that's in the office, or whatever it might be, that would be your general day. Now, and quite a lot of the time now when we're working from home, get up, start work, coffee, maybe a Zoom meeting, lunch, work, coffee, work. And around about 3:30, maybe if you've got kids that are at school, or around about sort of 3:30 till 5, people start coming home. So you get that kind of break in your work. And then around about between 4 and 7, 8, finish-ish. Okay, because quite a lot of the time we don't have that ritual to finish the day. So we just kind of finish-ish. All right, so there's a less definitive line between work and the rest of your life and home. All right, so we get this situation where things have completely changed for us over the last 12 months. So whereas before we had the kind of physical side of things, where we're looking after our physical well-being, and whether that was just walking between your car and workplace, whether that was you were just out and about, you were active over the course of the day, you were having to work, say if you're working at your kitchen table, it's not much of a commute to the kettle. So there was a little bit more movement in your day, probably. There was so that was the physical side of things. We had social side of things, where you had workmates that you were chatting to face. Do you know it's actually very difficult for your brain to work out that somebody you're talking to on a screen is in 3D? It just thinks 2D, not a real person. So you have to keep reminding yourself that you're talking to a screen. But when you meet somebody face to face, you get all those cues from them, and you're getting social cues from them, you're getting a little bit of contact with people. So it's a huge thing in terms of social benefit to be around people. And the mental and emotional side of things, being around people and the benefits that you've got in there are huge as well. So the 4 aspects of well-being there that working from home by necessity starts taking away. So it makes it quite difficult for us to maintain a level of well-being if you just work from home and don't actively do stuff that you would normally do. So there's a big difference that we've gone through in the last year, which we need to know, and we need to know about and be aware of. Now, the brilliant thing is you can change how you feel quite quickly, right? And just by giving yourself, well, what we call a dose. Okay, so you've got a dose of stuff that you can give yourself. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. All of these are happy hormones. You can create endless amounts of these all the time, as much as you want. Your body just keeps creating these things. And all you need to do are things that are engaging you in terms of your mental, emotional, social, or physical well-being. Right? Very simple, and they can be really, really small things. So, for example, if you start laughing, or if you start smiling, your body will continue to smile because you get a little shot. You get a little shot of a happy hormone when you smile, and then your body goes, "Oh, brilliant! We've got happy hormones," and then it creates more. It's a brilliant recycle. And eventually, if you smile for long enough, you start laughing, and then you feel fantastic. So you can create these very simply and very easily through just tiny little things that you do. So what we need to do as much as possible at the moment is give ourselves a dose, right? And they can be little 5-minute tasks. They can be tiny little tasks that we do. And that's where we kind of come on to these micro habits. Okay, micro habits, tiny little things that you can do for yourself that have a big impact on your life. And some of those micro habits can be dead simple, really, really simple. And we can layer them on top of each other. You can add micro habits onto other habits. So a brilliant one for me is in the morning, right? Everybody brushes their teeth, I hope. We don't need to at the moment because we're not seeing people as much, right? But when we get back to meetings face to face, we'll all be brushing our teeth. So everybody brushes their teeth. That's a great habit. It's a habit that we do every single day. You can add another habit onto that brushing, your teeth brushing. So what I do in the morning, I'll stand on my right leg to brush my teeth. And at night, I'll stand on my left leg to brush my teeth. And that's just a little habit that gives me a little core balance thing that I do for 2 minutes a day. But I've layered it on top of another habit that I already do. So it's actually dead easy for me to do. So that's kind of what we're going to have a look at over the next wee while. So what I want to do, Sarah, if we can boost people out into breakout rooms in a second, and I'm going to put you into a room with about 4 people. And what I want you to do is come up with something for yourself and have a chat with everybody else in there, introduce yourself or whatever, have a chat with everybody else in there and come up with, in the 5 minutes, one thing that you individually want to improve. From this list, so you've got sleep, nutrition, things you eat, hydration you're drinking, a relationship, physical health, or your mindset that you want to improve, and then come back in and I'll tell you what you're going to do with that. Okay, so if you jump out into your breakout room just now, give yourself 5 minutes of that.
You should have a notification on your screen inviting you to join the breakout room. Just click that acceptance and you'll be off.
Is that everybody back?
Yeah, that's the breakout room's closed now.
Awesome. Right, welcome back. Welcome back after a wee break. So I hope you came up with something in your group. I hope you've kind of got something. Now, what we're going to do, right, and this is kind of where it gets into what are you going to do, a little bit of a task for you. All right, so what you're going to do now is what I like to call a kind of commitment contract. And a commitment contract is pretty simple. Now, the kind of evidence shows if you want to change something, you'll manage it. However, if you want to change something and you've got somebody else working with you, you'll manage it much better. So what I'm going to get you to do now is think about who you could commit to that change with. All right? pick a person who can keep you to that. So for the next week, you're going to do the thing that you highlighted. Now, whatever it is, drink 2 litres of water a day, or stop drinking coffee after 9 o'clock at night, or whatever it might be, you're going to commit to that, all right, with this person. And they're going to keep you to it. So it's important who you pick, right? So if this is somebody, so you need to pick somebody who perhaps you're a little bit scared of, all right? Don't pick somebody that if you say, I haven't done it, or if they ask you if you've done it, and you can turn around to them and say, no, but. What you need to do is pick somebody who, if you say, I haven't done it, they can go, well, come on then, get on with it. Make sure you do it, all right? So don't pick your spouse, because you can tell them to go and do one, all right? Don't pick your partner, because you'll do the same. Pick somebody that maybe you're a little bit competitive with, or pick somebody that you maybe a little bit scared of, right? And commit to them to do it for a week, and get them to check with you each day whether you've done it. And what I want you then to do is, after the week, evaluate how you feel. Has this tiny habit that I've committed to made me feel any better over the course of the week? And if it has, brilliant, stick with it, but then add another one on, right? Say, now next week I'm going to do that. And so what you eventually end up doing is making changes in a really small incremental way to your own well-being, which over the course of 3 or 4 months make big changes to the way you feel. And that for me is the important bit, that you're able to make that small change. Because if I said, well, right, we're all going to run a marathon next Friday, it's not doable. But if we're going to do something tiny, then it is doable for you. You should be able to stick to it. So that's the contract you're going to make with somebody else. Okay, so we've covered loads of stuff today, in terms of lots and lots of topics that we've covered. And we've gone into very little detail in any of those topics. So if you want to do more, if you want to know more or anything kind of further from today, then come and talk to me, wellbeingventure.co.uk, or send me a message or whatever. Come and talk to me. We do lots and lots of stuff around about staff training development, workshops, etc. We can have a look at wellbeing solutions for your business. We can have a look at what you've got at the moment, do a bit of an audit for you. We develop wellbeing apps in a cost-effective way, so you can actually have something for your employees that is just for you and your company. And if the other thing that we do is we come up with just mad ideas for you to engage your staff. And that's one of the big things that we do, is just innovate for you. You know, what's out there, what's going to be good for you, let's make up something really cool. So that's more, I suppose, if you want more. The last thing that I would mention, as I did say, I came from education originally. Every time we work with a company, we gift a school resource free to a local school, because that's our why. That's why we're in it. We want to make a difference in the education sector as well. So that's one of the real kind of main reasons for us setting the company up. Guys, thank you very much. I will personally come and hunt you down and find out what you've done next week, and make sure you've stuck to it. But again, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it, and thanks for the Chamber for inviting me along and organising it.
Brilliant, Alan. Thank you. And for the sake of everybody's well-being, I'm going to commit to not singing on a webinar. That's the clear the room session. So Alan, thank you so much for that. That was really fab. Okay, so we're going to hear next from our webinar sponsor. Yvette Hill is going to come on and tell us a little bit about the Kip McGrath Centre. We had a fab chat recently, and if you haven't already watched the Take a Seat interview that the two of us did, please do that over on our YouTube channel, because it was really interesting just to get a wee bit of an insight. And a spoiler alert, I thought I was going to cry because it got a wee bit emotional. But we had such a laugh. So Yvette, over to you. I know you've got a few slides you want to share with us, and then we'll come back to questions. So Yvette.
Thank you very much, Alison, and absolutely, I agree. That was an emotional wee chat. To be fair, I haven't watched it yet, so forgive me. A very quick thank you to Alan for today's session too. That was really great. It echoed a lot of the things that I feel about working in education. I'm a passionate educator. I've been teaching for 15 years and working with children with complex needs all the way up to children in mainstream settings. So we at the moment run the Kip McGrath Education Centre, and we support children with their maths and English from primary through to secondary. But I thought what I would do today was just to focus on very briefly and very quickly some of the things that we've seen over the past 12 months in that transition to running our normal daily lives to moving to supporting education from home. There are some real standout points for me and things that I thought might be key takeaways. Some of you may have experienced supporting education for little ones and big ones at home, but it's been a very different journey for everyone. So one of the things, it was a real privilege for us to work closely and support our families in helping that. But there are certain things that I think from my own experience, life experience and teaching experience, that I think would benefit perhaps supporting both learning. I know that children are now returning to school after the Easter break, but certainly one of the things that's really important for me, whether it is home learning or anything within the home, is beginning to draw everyone together. For me, involving children in being part of the planning and organisation of their learning and the structure of even things around the home, it's really, really important. I often get the excuse from children, I didn't do my homework because mum didn't remind me. You know, it was someone else's job to do that. And for me, I think one of the key things as an educator is to make myself obsolete. And I apply that as a parent as well. Helping our children to take responsibility and be part of that organisation and take some of the weight off mum and dad, you know, those who are running the household. Every child can contribute in some way, shape or form. I come from a family of 5 children, and one of the things that my mother made sure is that we all had something to do in the house. So at the very young age of 9, I was cooking meals for my family of 7. And that was a really valuable lesson for me, for my children. And it's something that we instill in the work that we do with our students in the centre. Empower them to take responsibility and to contribute. The other thing, and it kind of picks up a little bit on what Alan was talking about, was the importance of having structure and habits. And for me in education, routine is key in being able to manage things on a day-to-day basis. So creating those habits, particularly for little ones that help them find some order in the chaos and that change that took place for them when the world turned upside down. They had to come home. The boundaries were no longer there. The getting up, the going to school. They're for a lot of parents struggling with, you know, their particularly teenagers' sleep habits. Absolutely, when not having to be at school, a lot of our parents have said, you know, they're not getting out of bed until late. So finding a way in that team planning to create some structure and some routine is absolutely essential. It's how big schools are run. Without a timetable, they wouldn't function. Another key feature for me in education, and I learnt this very early on as a new teacher, a picture says 1,000 words. So particularly for little ones, but even for big ones, if you can put something in a visual schedule, create some pictures just to show this is what's happening today, this is what we're doing, whatever it is, make it visual, and it just takes the effort out of having to remember. So in that, the creation of that structure in that organisation, cut some pictures out, print some pictures, whatever it is, they're invaluable in a whole range of ways. And I can see that because most of education and most of what we do now falls back to watching videos, looking at pictures. Everything that we do comes back to the images around us. So if we can use them to help guide and help keep us on track and create those habits, then that's a bonus. And lastly, one of the really important things that I've spoken to many of our parents about is finding opportunities to help children unload and to share some of their thoughts, their burdens, their worries. We hear a lot of feedback from parents about anxiety, about stress, about a loss of confidence, fear. And one of the things that helps that immensely is to find that safe place in the day that children will be able to talk about and speak about the things that are concerning them. That then helps perhaps to set up or create the context then for all of those other things, the creating the plan and creating some structure. One of the things that I loved and became very aware of when my son was quite young was that very spontaneously when we popped him into bed at night, all of a sudden it would be the place where he felt confident and safe to be able to download and tell us things that were on his mind. And it really hit home to me that there's a place for that. And sometimes it's just finding the time to make that work. So yeah, these are the things that for me are key in my role as an educator, my role as a parent, and are some maybe small pointers that might help, not just in home learning, but things in general. So yeah, I'm always happy to help, happy to chat about any aspect of education. Yeah, I could talk the leg off a chair about it if I'm honest. So always happy to provide support and guidance and advice with no obligation. So yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity today to share that with you, both the Chamber and to Alan today. It's been a real pleasure. There we are.
Thank you, Yvette. That's fab. Thank you so much to you both for sharing. Anybody that's got any questions, feel free to throw those into the chat or put your virtual hand up so that I can spot you in the room. Can I maybe ask a question of you both? And I think I'm hoping that it kind of covers some of what you've talked about, and it'll give us two different aspects on it. And it's about engagement, because I think whether it's in kind of, I guess, team environments where we're in a virtual world, or whether it's we've talked about students and classroom situations where all the teenagers have got their cameras off and there's not a lot of interaction. What kind of what are the ways that we could actually help people interact in a more natural way without a, right, okay, you know, I'm expecting 3 answers in the chat on this question that I might have about maths, for example. So Alan, do you want to maybe come in, and then we'll see about Yvette?
Start with a hard question. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. The engagement side of things. I think it's, for me, take it. I always find that with a Zoom call or something like that, when everybody's just sort of sitting there looking at you, the cues, it's difficult. It's really difficult to get cues from people. So the more options there are to engage without me talking to you, the better. And I suppose that was one of the reasons I tried to use the breakout rooms today, because people don't. I would imagine you've come up with what you wanted to do in the 5 minutes that I gave you within about a couple of minutes. Some of you within 20 seconds. The opportunity there then is to engage with each other and talk. So the more you can split these things up, the better it is for me. Just to give people a chance to talk about other stuff. Because that's part of working life that we haven't had for a wee while. It's just talk about stuff and talk to people. So you know, use the tools that are available to change from this environment to something slightly different, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree, Alan. One of the things that I speak to parents about on a regular basis is their child's, you know, terrified to put their hand up. So in a Zoom environment, that just magnifies it. Nobody wants to put themselves out there, and particularly in a learning situation, children are vulnerable. Everyone's vulnerable when we're learning. So engaging online is a really, really, really tricky. It's one way that actually, you know, you can shut down learning if you're asking people to do something to step out of their comfort zone. So yeah, I would agree with Alan. You know, making it smaller, taking away those opportunities for children to feel exposed and feel vulnerable, giving them perhaps, you know, opportunities. Pair and share in a classroom was one of those ways that children often worked. But yeah, it's a terrifying request to ask children to step up. Now, there's going to be some children that love it. They come to the fore, but for the vast majority of us, nobody wants to put ourselves out there. And yeah, yeah, I would agree. That's a good suggestion, Alan.
And how about the, you know, as we're coming out of restrictions, and obviously, I guess it's much more difficult for schools, isn't it? Because, you know, young people are going to be told when schools reopen, and maybe this one is more towards workplaces. But how do we encourage people to kind of have conversations about how they're feeling about all of that, and then make sure that, you know, that it's not an imposition of this is what happens going forward, but people feel like they're taken along on that journey. Yvette, I don't know, as I say, whether there's kind of anything from your perspective or just your workplace maybe, before we go to Alan then, if you want to have the first go this time, Yvette.
I guess we've always had an open door policy, so I check in with my my team regularly, and it's more important now than ever when people are isolated. All of my teaching team are working from home. We don't have that sort of interconnection that we would when we come into centre. So I guess making that opportunity available and communicating that as widely as possible. What I found, because I've made that available to our parents as well, is to leave that open and let people come to it on their own terms. And when people do want to engage, they know that they've got a willing ear, and that they know that you're there. But I guess it's not something that can be forced, and as long as they know that you are supporting that, then yeah, I would hope that most people might take that up if they need it.
Alan?
Yeah, and for me, there's again, I come back to these small things that you can do. You know, I'm big on making small changes and the impact that small changes can make. But I think it's just simple things like, you know, if there's a culture within a workplace to talk, then that makes it a more open place. You know, people are going to open up more, and you're going to find out more about people, and you can start getting into preventative approaches rather than reactive approaches. And I think that's led from the top. You know, if it's an open culture, then that should be modelled by your senior management and your leadership team. I think there are tiny things. I take quite a lot from the world of sport because I'm a sport geek. But one of the really small things that I like is Glasgow Warriors rugby team. I use this all the time. When somebody new comes into that team, everybody has to say hello to them. They have to introduce themselves to them. It's about creating an open environment so that conversation can come later down the line. So you know, things like that are really important. Holding the door open for somebody, saying good morning to everybody in the morning opens the potential for a conversation. And there's one that I found, I just listened to the other day. I don't know if anybody saw the Roman Kemp documentary last week on men's mental health and the inability of men to talk about these types of things, and particularly mental health. But it was asked twice. How are you doing? Fine. Yeah, how are you doing though? And just that second question allows the opportunity for somebody to say something. And I think these things are tiny things that you can do, but they're really easy. And that opens up the conversation for people to have.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've got a few comments and observations. Nobody with their hand up. So I guess my last question is about fun. So how do we incorporate fun at work or in a learning environment that doesn't feel like forced fun?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I think that again, that's for me, that's modelled. You know, that it's the culture that you have in your workplace, or the culture you have in your learning environment. If you're modelling that you're having a great time, everybody else tends to, you know, everybody will fall into that. And the assumption that I have a real problem with the kind of whole idea of work-life balance. It's life, you know, so you should enjoy yourself at work too, surely. And that for me is a kind of thing that sometimes is, I'm serious, I'm at work. You know, I was telling people, I'll let this be known now because it's nearly the end of the call, but I'm sitting here, I've got a polo shirt on, and that's the first time I've worn a collar for months, but I've got shorts and flip-flops on under here, right? Because I'm comfortable in that, and that's how I want to, that's my company culture, right? So I want to have fun at work. So model that as a senior management team, model that as leaders, and your people will get that your workplace can be a nice place to be and fun.
Absolutely.
God, why would you be miserable? Why would you be unhappy at work?
I would absolutely agree. We build really strong relationships with the students that we work with. So part of then being able to bring some fun and some engagement is to really know our students, to know what makes them tick, to know what makes them happy, know about their, you know, their life, the things that they enjoy, and we connect with that, and you know, that then becomes the conversation. We find out, you know, the family dog's been, you know, just about to have puppies. What's happening? Tell us about it. Yeah, always start with something fun. I mean, yeah, there are elements of what we do that are, you know, learning is not always easy, but if we can find a way to hook in with each individual and really connect with them on an individual level, that's the beginning of keeping things positive. Absolutely. But I like your suggestion. I like your thinking too, Alan, on modelling it from the top and you know, sharing it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that's a really lovely way to finish. Thank you both so much for taking the time.
I think Robert had
Sorry.
his hand up there, just it kept coming up and going down again, just in case.
I think he was clapping what you were saying, but Robert, do you want to come
was
on
it?
and say something?
No, sorry, I did have my hand up. I don't know what the hand is then. What is the hand?
That's okay. You can just wave at us.
Oh, right, okay. So no, I'd say I really connected with what Alan was saying in terms of really reflecting back to, and especially the children and sport and things like that. It's about, for me, with children, they'll be difficult to connect in this media, but trying to get into their world, you know, like the sporting world, you know, if you maybe talk to them about, you know, you touched on it, the football, the rugby and things like that, you'll get these, oh, I know about rugby, or I know about football. You'll get engagement, you know, try and really get into the compassionate world of their, you know, what they're thinking, etc. And Alan is touching on using sport, using that to connect the children is the awesome way forward. So for me, I really did feel that, you know, that might be helpful, Yvette, to, you know, trying to connect with the children, because it must be really difficult. You're right. I felt that compassion, the way you told your story as well, was awesome. So that was all. I just wanted to add that in.
No, that's really great. Thank you so much. Massive thank you to everybody for taking the time to join us today. Thank you to Alan and Yvette. Thank you to Sarah for keeping us all on track. And it's been really fab. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you enjoy Alan coming back to find out whether you've actually done your micro improvements, and make sure, as Alan says, you find somebody that's going to hold you to account and not let you off. But enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy April Fool's Day. I did think, actually, you know, let's talk about singing the national anthem. Oh God, is it the 1st of April? I hope it is. It's been a really great session. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. So thanks, folks.